Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, here in New York City, day 3 of the 5th Cloud Expo. Lunchtime power panel number 2. We could go on numbering these things forever, but we won't. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening if you're following the Lunchtime power panel out there on the World Wide Web via SYS-CON TV. We are looking right now at how the cloud is actually being used. What else matters really? How, where, who by? That's what this panel is all about. To help us discover this, we've got, oh no, 5 guys again. This is horrible. All right, well, nonetheless, we've got what we've got. Let them introduce themselves, starting with Rex. Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm going to introduce myself.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Rex Wang, and I'm a Vice President of Product Marketing at Oracle. I cover areas like cloud computing and our management stack, operating systems, virtualization, that whole area.
All that good stuff. Eric.
Eric Moss. I'm the Director of Enterprise Security at Lighthouse Security Group, premier IBM partner. We deliver identity and access management in the cloud.
Pankaj.
Hey, I'm Pankaj Mittal, CTO with Impetus Technologies. We provide, we partner with ISVs and technology businesses and provide outsource R&D services to technology businesses.
And Jeff.
Hi, I'm Jeff Eccles, Senior Director of Cloud Strategy and Alliances at Commvault. We do data and information management, so backup, archive, replication, things like that, to cloud storage services and on-prem.
And the best company name of all, I think, because I can barely pronounce it. Let's have Doug introduce himself.
Doug Johnson, VP of Marketing at Acumatica.
Just said it, slow down. Sorry to be this.
Acumatica, 5 syllables.
Unbelievable, you haven't got a chance.
No, that's right. Although we do have a nice cloud ERP solution, so that's, we're an ISV that's running on the cloud.
Okay, well, I'm only teasing him because he actually gets to go first. You clearly are doing something with the cloud. Everyone out there either wants to be doing something with the cloud or wants to use the thing that you're doing with the cloud, so have at it. Just tell us how it all works.
I'll give a quick little story about why we went to the cloud. So we were originally an on-premise app, but we were web-based, so we were foreseeing the cloud. And then some of our small to medium-sized business customers that wanted ERP solutions were a little bit unable to manage servers and do all of the IT work themselves. So they said, well, some of your competitors out there have SaaS solutions. So we went out to build a SaaS solution, and essentially that's what moved us to the cloud. So now we have 2 offerings. We have one, which is the one for people with an IT department and lots of money, which they can deploy on-premise. And we have another one for the more nimble organization that's based in the cloud and would be able to go ahead and just pay a monthly fee to get ERP solutions.
Okay, now I've got a bright wheeze as to how to find out fast what's really going on in the cloud. You ask the security guy. Eric, people who come to you must be doing something in the cloud.
Absolutely.
Because they're trying to secure what they're doing. So what are they doing and where?
Most of our customers are embracing software as a service, and they're trying to get their hands wrapped around these cloud applications are new assets that they need to manage in their portfolio of applications on-premise. So they're looking at how to extend identity management, the life cycle of identities, entitlements, role management, out to applications that are outside of their control, that live out in cyberspace, basically.
All right. Pankaj, same sort of question. You must be advising people, so they must be actually doing something. Who are they?
Yeah, so we have 2 types of customers. One, end users, and second, again, ISVs. So we work for ISVs and then help them move their existing application from a non-cloud or non-SaaS model to a SaaS model in the cloud model. So a lot of people are, but let me talk about India's side. A lot of people in India is trying to move from a traditional IT product environment to a SaaS environment because, in India, you see the cost pressures are very high. Everything is required to be offered in a very low price. In my opinion, software as a service delivered on a platform as a service or infrastructure as a service requires you, enables you to offer these services in a very low cost manner. So we ourselves are providing some products in India on a software as a service model, as well as enabling our customers to provide this kind of move their software on a software as a service model. So a lot is happening, but a lot is required in terms of, particularly in India perspective, a lot is required in terms of security, in terms of interoperability, in terms of giving them a comfort that cloud is a real thing for them, or software as a service is a real thing for them.
So it's still to come, really. That's
It's still
the
to
summary
come.
there. It's to come. I got that bit.
Yeah, but you know what? The best example in India is mobile value-added services. If you look at, in my perspective, mobile value-added services is nothing but a software as a service offered in you can call it a cloud, you can call it a software as a service, you can call it a IaaS or a PaaS, but ultimately it's there. It's already being used by so many people. The only difference today is that those applications are very small. They're offering very small value at this point of time. But I see the way the mobile penetration has happened in India just is a leap forward. More than internet, or more than a PC penetration, you have mobile penetration, right? So that's really driving the use of software as a service or adoption of software as a service in a big way in India.
We are going to keep our eye on India. Rex, does Oracle keep its eye on India and the East?
Keep its eye on India. Sure, we have a significant operation there, both
but
customers.
cloud-wise, I suppose, I mean.
Cloud-wise.
Because I've been told there are no Asian clouds.
No, I don't agree with that. Actually, I just got back from Asia, where I was speaking at Singapore and KL.
Right,
so actually, Asia is a very broad and different place depending upon what part of Asia you're talking about. I think that certain spots, things like Korea, for example, or Singapore, these countries are pretty far along in their thinking in cloud, actually, relative to other countries in Asia, which may not be so far along.
Right. Eric, what gives on Commvault's take on exactly this?
Absolutely. So Commvault does backup archive replications. We basically are all about taking production data and moving it to a kind of a secondary, tertiary copies for long-term protection, retention, things like that. What we did about 6 weeks ago is basically built a REST connector into our product to where we can now treat API-based cloud storage as a tier of storage. So our product now can select a cloud storage tier out in, for example, Azure or S3 or Nirvanix or somebody like that, and you can actually send those backup copies or archive copies into the cloud for long-term retention.
So who's using it, Jeff? Name us some names.
There's a couple of
generic types. It's not particular verticals, I'm certain, but what kind of people?
It's kind of breaking it out in a couple of key categories right now. We're seeing more mid-size folks that are interested in using cloud storage to replace infrastructure like tape or even disk. So having somebody that's swapping tapes, managing tapes, sending tapes out on a truck somewhere. They see this as a natural evolution to just say, I can take those dollars, reinvest them in a 15, 20, 30 cent per gigabyte cloud, and now I've got something that's going off-site. I'm not having to use people cost on managing something that's pretty mundane. I can reuse those resources now on things that are more core to my business that I can that make a lot of sense for me. And then bigger you go, we see people like bigger enterprises that are interested in hanging on to archive data, so they can't delete it for compliance reasons. They see cloud storage as a cheap tier, potentially, that they can move things to, free up assets, and hold on to that for a long time. In the event they have an e-discovery need for a lawsuit or something like that, they can go back and we bring it back.
All right. Well, now we've heard a little bit about India. We've heard a little bit about the East. Who is not here because of the volcanic ash? Our European friends, and there were many, many people headed for this show. Very frustrated emails from airports coming to me all Saturday and Sunday, and still this week. So, for our European friends who wanted to come to hear what was going on in the US, let's return the compliment. Do you know anything that's going on in Europe? And just let's check, have we still got us Icelandic friends with? Who's here actually from Europe, other than myself? Anyone make it? He made it? Oh my God, that is how serious it is. So a show that would normally have, we think we have 15% of people across the Atlantic to attend the New York show. Always, 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 completely every single time. So just think about this room full, and then 15% of it couldn't make it. So I'm just wondering, what do you know? And it seems absurd, because normally I would ask them, what do you know about the cloud in Europe? What's going on? Are they coming because they're behind? Are they coming because they're ahead and want to tell you guys to pull up your socks? What's happening in Europe? Rex, again?
I think there's a tremendous interest in Europe. I mean, we've been active there with some of our activities, and there's a tremendous amount of interest from large companies, small companies, telco operators, for example. Every telco operator in the world, I would say, including Europe,
Yep.
are interested in becoming public cloud service providers, as well as building private clouds for their own internal IT. We see that from major banks. We see that from the government in specific. So those are the three industries that we see the most adoption.
That's huge.
Public
Just
sector,
Telecom.
telco, and financial services. Definitely those are the three. Although it's horizontal. Clearly it's interested, cloud is of interest to every industry. But if I had to identify three, it'd be those three.
Anything going on, guys, down there in Europe? Any implementations in Europe? Europe reaching out to you, Eric?
Sure, yeah. We're seeing a lot of interest, specifically in the federation space, where organizations are attempting to federate security boundaries between clouds that exist in different parts of the geography. It's not just the technology now, it's also bridging compliance gaps between organizations that live in countries that have different regulations on how data is treated. And that can be not as far away as Europe, it could be even from the US to Canada, where banking regulations differ and data security and privacy acts differ in terms of how security information and credentials are shared between different clouds.
Now, I'm a great believer in power panels and in the conference in general. Obviously, the people sitting here, they're into the day 3. They have ingested incredible amounts of information, and I hope insight about the cloud. The question is, when we take it like this and we say what's happening where, and there's no disrespect on any of you, I still get this sense that it's slipping between our fingers, that it's difficult to actually say it. That's possibly because of the stage we're at. So I just want to ask this. It's an obvious thing. Isn't that because some of those barriers that some of the sessions have been about really are still with us and aren't being surmounted? Or can we say to everybody, embolden them and say, there are barriers and they are all of them in train towards being solved and overcome. So don't let that stop you. That's the message I want to get clear. It can't come from me. I'm a conference chairman. Of course I want the cloud to succeed. But it could come from you guys because you're all in different niches. So this is a round starting, I think, with you, Doug. Why not?
Sure.
Can the audience safely go home and bet on the cloud?
I'm going to say yes, but I'll talk about one barrier that we ran into. So one thing we had to do was we had small and medium businesses that wanted to get on the cloud, but they didn't want to understand what a megabyte of data was. They didn't want to understand if my bandwidth goes up and down, I've got to pay so much. So we had to come up with a pricing model that enabled them to get on the cloud, and we had to accept the risk for some of the gyrations that would go on with usage and other terms. We use the Windows Azure cloud, so we actually will pay Microsoft and the customers will pay us, and we have to accept the risk that goes in it. So part of the adoption issues that we had with the cloud and why some people still went with on-premise was because even though it was more expensive, it was a known expense as opposed to something that could skyrocket if it got very popular. So that was one thing that we had to overcome, and we're proud to say that we've got a model that everyone's happy with, and it doesn't present an issue anymore in our particular case, but it could still be an issue for others out there.
Okay, there's a candid answer. Rex, match that.
So your question was around adoption, and our view is that adoption takes place as an evolution. And the vast majority of customers we think are on that road. They sort of see the cloud and want to move there, but they're at different stages in that evolution.
It's a journey.
It's definitely a journey. The sort of the vision, if you will, of hybrid clouds that interoperate and blah, 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 is a compelling vision. But we're in the very early days of cloud computing. I think everyone probably realizes that. Some people are taking the first steps by virtualizing, consolidating. They're leveraging both public clouds for certain applications, and they're building private clouds for others that they wish to make sure that they retain control, for example, over security or compliance issues, for example. So we see customers doing both and experimenting with both public and private clouds, moving along an evolution towards cloud computing.
See, it's interesting you say that. I'm going to just check with the audience because in a little litmus test, you can't be certain that everybody speaks the truth. So I'm just going to check. No disrespect,
So just ask
Rex.
how many people are using virtualization, for
That's
example.
what we're going to do. How many people are using virtualization actively in a business context? Oh, I mean, that's a huge percentage. How many people are using cloud on top of that in a business context? Really Okay, not the same number, but a significant number. Interesting. So you've spoke the truth.
Yeah, it's not
Just wanted to check.
It's not an either or. I think that our customers are doing both, right? And the same company can be doing public cloud computing, private cloud computing, virtualization and consolidation for different parts of the business, different applications. And so, you know, for even Oracle is a good example of that, right? Different parts of Oracle.
Internally, you mean?
Yeah, Oracle itself, you know, which has a interesting private cloud for development and test, will actually make use of public clouds for certain things. So we ourselves are an example of a large enterprise that occupies different stages of that evolution all at the same time.
I'm intrigued. Just one last question, then I really will leave you alone, the audience. So notwithstanding the virtualization question and the cloud question, who simply, by virtue of being here at 5th Cloud Computing Expo, considers yourselves to be a pioneer? Because he says it's going slowly. Are you pioneers? Oh, very shy hands. Do you leave the show more insightful than you arrived at the show? Let's try that one.
I think everybody that came to the show is a pioneer.
I like it. Wait. No, this is wonderful. Say that out loud. That's the spirit.
My gut feeling is that anybody that came to this show is in the pioneering stage. I mean, we are on the very, very bottom of that adoption life cycle curve. But Steve Ballmer yesterday did his talk, and he said this is going to look like a hockey stick. So everybody needs to get on. Yeah.
How many are pioneers? They wouldn't respond.
Okay, how many of you think you're pioneers for being here? Come on, put your hands up. All right. Thank you. You can have your mic back.
A question.
Pioneer. And so I have accidentally, I subscribed to Information Week. And there's a cloud risk article. Before sending your data into the cloud, insist on transparency, and we get some standards over here. It's written by Greg Shipley.
We'll take it up to the camera.
And it's a very scary article because it does say that people are getting fired in corporations for adopting the cloud and charging the bill on the American Express card. And when the IT folks or someone sees the bill, is anyone familiar with this article?
I read it. So the issue?
The issue is the threat of not being secure, and that this could be the showstopper for a lot of corporations in the next 2 years, unless some innovative technologists and software people can assure the security.
So a magazine that I'm not at liberty to repeat the name of, because I don't publish it, has apparently got a rather good article saying Google wants you. And that's real, Doug?
Yeah, in the ERP space, you've got financial data, and a lot of the people are like, you know what, we're going to use your on-premise offering and have the blinking lights sitting in our data center because we like it that way as opposed to putting it on the cloud. So we would like to go 100% cloud, but as we've pointed out, we can't do that. We have to hedge our bet and have an on-premise offering that can convert to a cloud, and a cloud that then can go back to on-premise should the company come into a situation that the regulations would require something different.
All right. Well, look, because it follows on from there, as we know, I'm a layman, so what would I know? But can I just advise you something? And this goes for you, Rex, and it goes for you. It goes for this hybrid cloud, this term, hybrid cloud, doesn't that sound a bit like mongrel or half-breed, or isn't that just a dead term right out of the gate? Sorry to be so frank, and I'm probably wrong, but just tell me that I'm wrong and why.
So my understanding of a hybrid cloud is, you know, a little bit different perhaps than some people. I think of it as it's the case where a single application spans both public and private cloud. It's not the case where a single company is using both public and private cloud. That's not a hybrid cloud.
Okay.
So the difference is, you know, for a single app to run seamlessly in both places, let's say to do cloud bursting, that is to run your steady state workload in-house and then burst out to a public cloud for peak workloads, let's say, and then, you know, get rid of that capacity when it's no longer needed. That's very tricky. I actually, you know, am not aware of a general purpose out-of-the-box solution for that by anybody. It's possible, but it requires quite a bit of hand coding I think a lot of CIOs see that as a very compelling vision. You know, hey, I only run my steady state workload, and if I need some excess capacity, I can rent it.
But it's not
You know.
feasible, or not readily.
It's super early,
Right. That's interesting.
in my view.
I think the thought
Do we agree with that?
Maybe just a thought of extending your thought. In intercloud, in my opinion, hybrid, intercloud is much more required than in a hybrid where, you know, as you said, one application can run across the cloud. In my opinion, it should be allowed that for me to change my cloud vendor. It's like number portability, where I can change the vendor and still have my number. So these are the things which are required where, you know, that for greater adaptability, that I have same application running and I can change the underlying cloud provider based on my needs. Today I have a seasonal need where, you know, one vendor works well for my this seasonal need. Maybe in a December time frame where the need grows up, the hits grows up, I go for X vendor because they provide much better services. And then, you know, it's gone, then I go for another vendor which gives me a better price and an overall better cost.
But how, you know, on behalf of the audience and the gazillions of people watching, how far, Eric, could we possibly be out to that vision?
Open standards are going to be the foundation of what makes the cloud successful. So I would 100% back what was said, because there's a lot of very new technologies that are being brought to the cloud. And one of the common pitfalls is going to be getting yourself locked into something that's proprietary and looking as much at the SLA and your legal rights to your data and your capabilities as much as the technology itself is important when evaluating these solutions. So the ability to be interoperable via the use of open standards, as well as being able to take my data and port it to another provider is a real concern that anybody who's looking at leveraging the public cloud should be evaluating when they select a solution.
Yeah, today, you know, fear of lock-in is a barrier or challenge that I think many people have before adopting public clouds, because once they start using one, it becomes awfully hard to get off of that or move off of that. The standards are not in place yet. Yeah. They're not defined yet. And it goes beyond that. I mean, you're going to need a single pane of glass to manage across public and private clouds. From a systems management standpoint, you need to be able to manage your own data center as well as, you know, the public cloud data center through a single pane of glass. That technology doesn't exist either.
I like that, single pane of glass. Is that an internal Oracle term?
No, I don't think so.
It's rather poetic, right?
It's a systems management term.
Oh, I like that. Well, the single pane of glass we view the cloud through is this conference. So it's, of course, a random selection. Let me agree that. It's a random selection of people, just like a panel is a random selection of people. But you know what? I was thinking, we have the jury system. That's a random selection of people. Life and death decisions are made by that jury. So I'm thinking that the subset of our subset is an okay group to take the following question from, because it's an obvious one, because we're coming up to the 6th Cloud Computing Expo in Europe, where those guys who couldn't come, you'll be able to come to that one. And the 7th Cloud Computing Expo in November, where, I don't know if it's you guys, because we have the Chinese wall, but so many people have already said, we are coming, and we want to do this all over again. So this is the sort of, is it 6 months, 7 months, what are we in, April? Oh my God, November. 7 months on question. What's the single most certain thing that will have changed between this show and the 7th Cloud Expo in November? Because this is the kind of speed that this is moving. So you've got a 7-month window. You've got to think of one thing that absolutely certainly will have changed between even now and then, just 7 months. And if there's nothing, then we're all going to realize it's slowing down, so be careful. Who are we going to start with? They're in real trouble now. Eric. Eric's eyes are going from side to side. There's absolutely nothing he can think of. A standard. It could be the birth of a standard, the start of an alliance, something certain.
I think specifically of my space that I'm in.
Yeah.
Speaking of standards, OASIS, Open Standard Working Group, is working heavily for standards like ID Cloud that are looking specifically to develop standards around identity provisioning and pushing data between different clouds. But I think the one thing that I would say is for certain, besides standards, is just the fact that there are going to be more people sitting in this room. There's going to be more people.
Oh, I like that. Just say that again. More people
More
in this
people
room.
sitting
More
in this
people
room.
at Cloud Expo. More days to Cloud Expo's already come true.
More days. The fact of the matter is people understand, especially in this economy, there's a return on investment, there's cost savings, there's time to market. There's reducing overhead. People are getting out of the business of doing things that are not within their core competency. They need to streamline their business and focus on things that are differentiators. And a lot of these technologies are commoditizing, and hence being able to leverage them via the cloud versus building on-premise technology is a big attraction, especially in this economy where everybody's looking to cut those costs. So I think the one thing that's for certain is that there's going to be more interest in how to leverage the cloud.
I like that. That's a fine answer. Who wants to go next? Yeah.
Very, very similar. I think we're just going to see more people experiment with it, and they will be using it by that time. I know right now on a daily basis we have more people that want to come and just try it. I mean, from our space, it's a matter of someone wanting to just start, trying sending some data into the cloud. I mean, it's a fairly easy thing to try, and so I think more and more people will continue to experiment with that.
I think you used a very valid word. I think a lot of people are experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are beyond that and moving into production, but some people are in POC mode. And certainly there's more and more of that coming. I think that this gentleman said something about how people using public clouds are somehow, the IT department is worried about that. I actually think that the rise of public clouds puts pressure on IT to become a better internal service provider and perhaps build a private cloud to compete with, essentially, public clouds, right? And I think that you'll see more of that as well. People are experimenting with both public and private.
Pankaj?
Yeah, I think I agree. And you have to see the value of the cloud. I think, as you said, that people will find more and more better and better uses of the cloud technology. That will certainly change, and it'll become more cost effective for people to do the business. Because it's not about technology, it's about operational changes, which the cloud is bringing about. So yeah, I mean, the advantage is so compelling that people will be willing to go with whatever are the lacunas in security, standardization, and whatnot. So people will leave that or will keep solving them. But I think the compelling benefit are so much that people will continue to use more and more of the cloud and various other platforms like SaaS and PaaS and IaaS.
So there are some certainties. Amid all the uncertainties, there isn't time for another question, though, sir.
You're asking the positive stuff. Is there a certainty that there could be a catastrophic disaster?
Oh, that's a good one.
7 months, like a volcano erupting, or some major catastrophe in Wall Street, where there's a cyber attack, or is there anything that you guys see in the field that raises a high risk right now that would put or set back cloud for go back in time?
Okay, that's a valid question. So the question is, could there be anything as catastrophic and happenstantial as a volcanic ash explosion or another extraordinary meltdown that could set the entire cloud thing back? I think I know their answer, and it's got only 2 letters, but I'll quickly put it to them. Chaps, could that happen? Is the cloud stoppable? Isn't that a little like stopping the sea or the ocean or... Well, I'm not going to answer. Rex? You can answer
I
just
wouldn't
yes or
say
no.
that there's any risk from acts of God or anything like that. What I would say is we're very early in the life cycle of cloud computing. The Gartner hype curve, we're about to fall into the trough of disillusionment. And if this follows the pattern of, let's say, SOA, how long did SOA take?
Please don't
right?
say that at
right?
Cloud Expo.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know. I don't think anybody in this room can say for sure that it won't be as slow as SOA, right? It could be that slow.
No, not with Cloud Expo to accelerate it. Obviously not.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to be, much faster in terms of adoption, or it could be just as slow as SOA.
Quickly on to Eric. Just as slow as SOA. What a horrible
I
thought.
honestly believe that the adoption rate is going to differ, and it's going to differ across the industry, the verticals, and as well as the size of the enterprise, right? We're seeing very quick adoption in the SMB, the mid-market space, organizations that really it may be the choice between not implementing a technology or the choice of implementing it. So from a public cloud perspective, from the private cloud perspective, I think we're going to see adoption grow very rapidly inside of the enterprises, more in the experimental phase, potentially up front. But I think those private and public clouds are going to differ in the adoption rate depending upon those verticals and the size of the industry.
I have to say, I don't think they're discouraged by acts of God either. We're coming to the end. I'm looking at the clock. I've got 18 seconds in which to get you out of here, which means we can quickly say thank you to Rex Wang from Oracle, Eric Maas from Lighthouse Security, Pankaj Mittal from Impetus, Jeff Eccles of Commvault, and Dave Murphy. It wasn't Dave Murphy, though, at all. It turned out to be Doug Johnson from the unpronounceable firm. I've had to hold his card so I can do it, from Acumatica. You've got the biggest plug of all. Thank you to our audience, as ever. That is the end of this Lunchtime Power Panel. Thank you.